So thank you, Nicholas, for that lovely segue, which I will actually use later, because first up we do have Pamela Morgan. So for all of those in the room, raise your hands if you have any involvement with some crypto assets under your belt. Don't have to be shy. So keep your hands up if you know that if something happened to you, your friend, a family member, would be able to get hold of that. That's also a very decent amount. So this question, or these questions, is something that Pamela Morgan has probably asked thousands of times throughout her career, I guess. She's an educator, entrepreneur, attorney, and author. She wrote the book, Cryptoasset Inheritance Planning, A Simple Guide for Owners. And she's not afraid to address the question of what happens to my crypto assets if I die. So let's welcome Pamela Morgan to the stage.
Thanks very much. Well, hello. Oh, you have to answer me. Hi. How you doing? I had no idea that Zurich was so excited about death. I mean, that's why you guys are here, right? No? Okay, that's okay. So yes, I'm Pamela Morgan. I'm an attorney, I'm an educator, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working full-time in Bitcoin since early 2014. I learned about Bitcoin in late 2013, and I was so interested about how we could use Bitcoin to change systems and make systems that actually work for people and serve people in a way that many of the systems today do not. And so I decided a couple months later to quit my full-time job and to create a career for myself in Bitcoin and open blockchains. So I want to ask you a question. How many of you are working in Bitcoin or open blockchains? Awesome, congratulations. How many of you wish you were? Yes, brilliant. It is possible. That's not the topic of my talk tonight, but if you want to talk about that, I'm happy to discuss it with you. It's one of the great privileges of my life to be able to talk to people around the world and encourage them to quit their shitty jobs and do something they love. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. One other thing, how many lawyers are in the room? It's okay, you can admit it. Very good. Okay, so I am a lawyer, and you see something on this slide. This little gray thing here, CC by SA. How many of you know what CC by SA means? Yeah, some of you, I like the half hands. Like some of you are like, yes, and then other of you are like, maybe. So CC by SA is a Creative Commons license. And what that means is that you can use anything in my slides. You don't have to ask permission. All you have to do is give me credit and share it alike with the community. So what you need to do is give me credit and share alike. You don't have to ask me permission. You can find these slides at a bit.ly link, bit.ly/CIP, Crypto Inheritance Planning, Zurich. You can find me at Empowered Law and on crypto Twitter at Pamela JD. Get it? Pamela. Yeah, that's lawyer nerd humor. It's really bad, isn't it? It's almost as bad as crypto Twitter humor. Okay, so we're going to talk about death. We're going to talk about what's going to happen to your crypto assets when and if you die. And we're going to talk very briefly about smart contracts, and I may or may not have time to take questions. I wrote a book, as was mentioned before, Cryptoasset Inheritance Planning. It intentionally has a terrible title because I published it just after the big run-up in 2018. And I didn't want people to see a book about crypto and like, yeah, I'm gonna learn how to get rich. So I named it Cryptoasset Inheritance Planning to make sure that only people who really needed or wanted this information would actually buy the book. So it's time for a quiz. You ready? Don't worry, it's not graded. There's nothing writing on this. It's just for fun. So I care very much about whether or not your heirs can have access to your crypto assets. And so I always start my presentations out with these questions. So let's see how honest you are. If you die without a will, or a testament as it's sometimes called, or without a trust, who decides who gets what? So A, You have no idea, you've never thought about it before. Raise hands. Very good. Thank you for your honesty. Very good. How about who thinks your family decides? Yeah, I mean, a good portion of you. I'd say probably a third of you think your family decides. Wah, 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 gong. Sorry. The answer is C. The local law decides who gets what. And the Swiss government has a handy little guide online, and it depends on where you live as to who will get what. If you do not, and that's the link there at the bottom that's unreadable. If you want to see what it is, you can just click there if you download the slide deck. But at the end of the day, what matters is that these laws were written at a time before we have families by choice. The laws, they're called laws of intestacy. And intestacy means if you die without a will. So if you die and you don't make some sort of provision, then the state decides who gets what. And that's typically based on blood relation. How many of you have used Google Docs? You're like, what the hell does this have to do with inheritance? I got you, don't worry. So if you use Google Docs and you open up a document and you start typing, what font is there? Have you ever thought about it? Arial, yes, Arial 11, right? It's Arial 11. And the law works in the same way, okay? There's a default law, just like there's a default font, just like there's a default font size. So if you open up a Google Doc and you start typing, it's going to be Arial 11. You can make other choices. You can go crazy with Helvetica or wild with Times New Roman or Comic Sans if you want. But in order to do that, you have to take an affirmative step, right? You have to do something. You have to choose a new font. The law is the same way. You don't have to be stuck with what the law says, but you do have to take an affirmative step. You have to do something, and that's what writing a will or a testament or doing a trust will allow you to do. So if you die without a plan, which of these people will actually take from your estate? I'm sorry to tell you, the correct answer is E, none of the above. So if you have a live-in domestic partner that you have not registered your partnership here, guess what? They get nothing. It doesn't matter how long you've been together in most jurisdictions. You could be together for 30 years. It doesn't matter. They get nothing. Same thing with your best friend. Same thing with children through marriage or your favorite political cause or charity or your favorite Bitcoin meetup. Huh? So the reality is that if you want to give something to any of these people, you have to do something. You have to take an affirmative step. So let's be honest. Right now, I know that many of you said that your family will be able to inherit your cryptocurrencies, and I hope that's true. But let's delve into that a little bit more. Right now, how many of your plans rely on a friend or family member who knows your passwords or has a copy of your keys? Be honest. Yeah, exactly. Yes. You're in good company. Don't fret. How about B? Your family remembering what you told them in a sticky note? Yes, I like that honesty. Thank you very much. How about the immortality plan? You're never gonna die. Yeah, yes. Can you do two hands for that? Yes. And how about a detailed, documented, and well-tested plan? Yeah, about 3 in the audience that I can see. Exactly. So I'm hoping that after this talk, we'll get more of you away from the immortality plan and into section D here. You're in good company if you're planning on immortality. I did a Twitter poll before I published my book, and as you'll see, 55% of Twitter thinks they're going to live forever too. But the reality is that immortality doesn't work. How many of you are familiar with Quadriga? Quadriga CX, there we go. So if you're not, what happened? Let's not talk about whether he's dead or not, okay? We're just gonna go with it, he's dead. The owner of an exchange poorly managed their keys, died, and locked up a bunch of customer funds, like over $100 million worth of customer funds. And you might think that this is only institutions, but that's not true. People are losing fortunes, families are losing fortunes right now because people are passing away and they're not leaving their keys. Matthew Mellon inherited his wealth. His daddy was a banker, and he inherited a bunch of wealth, and then he lost a bunch of it. And then he found crypto, and he got redemption. He ended up making a ton of money in crypto. And then he died, I think it's last year. And he died unexpectedly. He was supposed to enter a rehab the next day, and he died under mysterious circumstances. Anyway, what you care about is that $500 million is currently locked up, and his family cannot find the keys. What he did, Matthew told his friends and family that he was so worried about getting robbed that he took his crypto seeds and he littered them around countries and states in the United States and didn't leave any sort of list or treasure map for his family. So you can imagine his family is now freaking out and trying desperately to find the keys. To date, they have had no luck. So this is a real problem, you guys. This is happening right now. And what I want you to think about is that planning puts you in control. Many of us are in Bitcoin because, let's face it, we're kind of control freaks, right? We like to control our own money. We like the idea of controlling things for ourselves. So this should appeal to you. If you make a plan, you're in control. And to do crypto asset inheritance planning, you need two sides. One is a technical access plan, where you're answering the question, how, from a practical perspective, will my loved ones be able to access my keys? The second side of it is legally. What happens? Who's entitled to my assets? And does my technical plan and legal plan go hand in hand? So when I talk to people about inheritance planning, I get a lot of pushback, surprisingly. Most people are like, yeah, I know I need to do it, but, and then one of these four things comes out of their mouths, right? One, I know I need to do inheritance planning, but I'll have to hire a lawyer. No, I don't want to. How many of you feel like that? I like the honesty, there's truth. Are you guys sitting next to lawyers? You're like, shh, no. No, it's not you, it's all the other ones. You don't actually have to hire a lawyer in order to do inheritance planning. In fact, many lawyers can't actually help you with the technology side, with the access plan. And so you can't really use this as an excuse. Instead, I'm gonna show you some ways that you can get started now without having to hire a lawyer. Secondly, I hear a lot of pushback on the idea that you have to trust a third party. That what inheritance planning is it's where you actually give your keys to a lawyer or to a custodian. That is not what I'm advocating. I would never do that with my keys. I'd never suggest that you do it with yours. So the idea that you have to trust a single third party is simply not true. There are ways to do this with multi-signature and multi-factor to diversify the control so that you're not trusting a single third party. Also, people tend to think that there's increased risk of theft. So the idea here is that inheritance planning means you're gonna write a whole treasure map, step-by-step guide. Step 1, locate the seeds. Step 2, put them in Electrum, or whatever you're gonna use, right? You're not going to list step-by-step all of your assets in one document. That would be ridiculous. You don't have to do that in order to create a good inheritance plan for your family. And finally, and this one you're probably not feeling today, which is the value is too low to plan. So when the price goes down and down and down and down, people are like, it's not really a big part of my net worth. It's not really worth it for me to take and make the effort to plan. But maybe you've noticed that recently the price has gone up pretty significantly, yes? Yeah? So now take a second and think. How much total value does your crypto represent in your net worth? Has it changed over the past couple months? Yeah, probably has. If your crypto represents more than 25% of your net worth, you better have an inheritance plan. You need one. Unless you're like, hey, I don't care, family. I told you to buy, you didn't listen, and you made fun of me, so right here. In that case, leave them a letter that tells them that. At least that way they're not searching for your keys, right? I think the real reason why we don't plan is denial and fear. right? We don't want to think about our own death. Who wants to do that? I mean, aside from me. No one wants to do that. And so we think that if we can think about something else, if we can focus on the price or the technology or anything other than our own mortality, cleaning the kitchen, then we don't have to face it. So I want to give you a couple of ways to think about this in a different way. Inheritance planning doesn't have to suck. It doesn't have to be this terrible thing where you're sitting at your kitchen table, it's raining. It's always raining when you do this. It's dark, it's cold, and you have to write out your death plan. That's not what this is, okay? So you can think about this as giving a gift. As giving a gift of your crypto to your friends and family, or to the people who mean the most to you. You can also think of it as a security makeover. So for those of you who aren't sure how secure your crypto assets are, you can use your inheritance planning as a catalyst, as a way to look and see, hey, where are those backup seeds? By the way, how long has it been since you've done an audit? Are your backup seeds still legible? Can you still read them? Are they still where you think they are? When was the last time you visited your vault or actually took a look to see? Did you update your storage location with that new wallet you started using 6 months ago? No? Maybe you should. And as part of that, you can start doing some inheritance planning as well. There was this great article in Wired magazine. How many of you saw this article? It's called I Forgot My PIN, An Epic Tale of Losing 30 Grand. Yeah, okay, it was a great article. If you haven't seen it, I totally recommend you read it. But the idea is that Mark Fraunfelder, who writes for Boing Boing magazine, got a Trezor, and he had some money stored on this hardware wallet. And through a series of unfortunate events, including but not limited to leaving his seed words out on his desk and the housekeeper accidentally threw away the backup, oops, he ended up losing access to the money that was on his Trezor. And so what he was able to do, some of you know that there was an exploit found on the Trezor, and he hadn't updated the firmware. And so he was actually able to get some help of some industry experts. I believe Andreas put him in touch with a couple of other people, and they were actually able to take a few months and work through this exploit and actually get his money back. That's awesome, right? Now, do you think that your family could do that if you're gone? No, they can't, right? They don't even know where to go. They don't even know that Bitcoin Reddit exists, right? So the reality is that by Mark taking a look now and noticing that the seed words were gone and realizing that he didn't have access, it gave him the opportunity to actually get money back where he otherwise wouldn't have been able to. You can also think of this as a treasure hunt, but like one that ends in happiness and not tears, right? So a treasure hunt for your family where they can go from point A to point B and point C. You can even put in like some dead ends if you really want to mess with them. You can do anything you want. You can make it fun. You can make it a game. But whatever you decide to do, just do it. So where to start? I've published a number of free resources on my website, Empowered Law, and there are two that I want to bring to your attention tonight. One of them is a letter to loved ones. It's a template that you can use that literally starts out and says, "Dear loved ones, if you're reading this letter, it's because I want you to know I have crypto assets. Be careful, because anyone offering to help you could steal them." And you go through, and I give you the language that you can take for yourself, use what makes sense for you, get rid of what doesn't make sense for you, and create a letter to your loved ones in less than 60 minutes that will help them. It's not going to give them 100% access, but it will give them more than what they have now, which is arguably nothing. If you don't remember anything else I say tonight, remember this. Perfection is an illusion. The idea that your family will be able to inherit 100% of all of your crypto assets it's never going to happen. How do I know? I know because there's more than 44 shitcoin forks of Bitcoin, okay? Technically, your family would be entitled to all of them. How many of you have gotten all of them? Crickets, exactly, nobody, because you're like, why would I waste my time doing this, right? So you don't need to have 100% in order to have something for your family. Don't let perfection stop you from planning. It doesn't need to be perfect, okay? If they get your Bitcoin, is that good enough? If they get your ETH, is that enough? Do they have to get all of your other coins? Wouldn't they be happy just getting some? Also, it's a work in progress. So you can write something today that gives them access to your main assets. And then if you're like super excited and have lots of spare time, you can always add more stuff to your letter, right? It's not a one and done. It's a work in progress. Your loved ones do not have your level of technical knowledge, okay? Your loved ones do not have your level of technical knowledge. Is it better in yellow? Yes? No? Maybe so? Okay, it's here because I really want you to remember this because I often hear people say, my plan for my loved ones is I wrote them down a step-by-step version, okay, an instruction manual. Sometimes these things are like this big, you guys. And they're like, don't worry, I've gone over this with my loved ones. It's totally fine. They can follow it, okay? So the reality is this. Your family, when you're going through that document, is like, yeah, I got it. They don't have it. They don't have it. I can promise you they don't have it. You want to know how? Play a game with them. Go home this weekend and have them pretend like you're not around and follow your magical guide to crypto. And watch their faces glaze over as they go, what are those words? Huh? Yeah. Your family does not have your level of technical knowledge. And so if you actually want them to be able to inherit your assets, you need to remember that and create a plan that's doable for them. That doesn't mean that it actually that they have to have a step-by-step guide written by you. It means that you need to put them in touch with some family members or some friends who have the technical knowledge who can help them walk through this, okay? And guess what? Look around. You've got eligible candidates all the way around you right now. You have people who could help your family make sure that other people aren't stealing from them. They don't have to be able to recover every single asset. What they do need to be able to do is walk your family through the process. So I talked a little bit about the Letter to Loved Ones template. I have it available in Spanish as well, and I'm hoping to have it translated into other languages. This is absolutely free. It's on the website. Take it, do what you want with it. It's fine. You also want to remember when you're doing a plan to make sure that your family keeps the keys. What do I mean by that? Many of you use wallets on your phones, yeah? Or on your laptop, or you use a hardware wallet. Does your family know what a hardware wallet is? No. Do they know what it looks like? No. They see your nerd box with a bunch of USBs, and they're like, I'm not going through this. I'm like, garbage, okay? And maybe your hardware wallet is in there. So you don't want them to throw away the keys before they've actually had access to get your crypto. And guess what? I'm about to break all your hearts. If and when you pass, your family's first order of business is not going to be to get your crypto. I know. That would be your thing, right? You'd be like, where's the Bitcoin? Okay, where is it? Okay, I mean, I know the service, but where's the Bitcoin? They're not like that. It might take them weeks, months, sometimes years to remember that you had these assets. And so they're not going to be running and trying to access this. So you want to make sure that they know what to keep, what not to give away, so that when the time comes and when they're ready to do this, the keys are there waiting for them. I did another poll for my book just to find out how many assets people had. And most people had more than 11 crypto assets. If you're using like non-standard, non-BIP39 assets, maybe Monero, maybe some of you guys have some other fun tokens or crypto kitties. Did you notice they're peeking out? I couldn't help myself. I love crypto kitties. But so if you have, 11 or so crypto assets, maybe you only want them to get your top 2, your top 3. Start with that. They don't have to get all 82 shitcoins, okay? They could just have a few good ones. In order to do that, you're going to need to create an inventory. And your inventory should have the tokens that you want them to recover and the devices that you have that have key material on them, okay? You should not put the amounts of crypto that you have. Why? Because if you put that you have 1.5 Bitcoin and then you decide to sell half a Bitcoin, then your family's going to think that somebody stole half a Bitcoin because in your letter you said, I have 1.5 Bitcoin, okay? So I usually advise against putting amounts in unless you're sure that you're not going to change that. So if it's deep cold storage, then you can put amounts in. In my book, Cryptoasset Inheritance Planning, we start with getting it done, talking about making it better, making it legal, and keeping it fresh. So we have 1 minute. Are you ready? Deadman switches don't work. I'm sorry I broke your heart. It's not my fault. They don't work. You want to know why? Because your family doesn't know that they're coming. Don't get thwarted by a spam filter, you guys. The spam filter is going to stop your family from getting the Deadman switch email. And even if it doesn't, do you think your family is going to read a message and be like, oh, this is legit? This doesn't look like a scam. Of course it looks like a scam. It looks like someone's trying to take advantage of them, right? So the chances of them actually answering an email that comes from a Deadman switch is pretty low if you haven't talked to them about it first. Right now, there are a lot of projects that are working on implementing smart contracts and inheritance planning. And for those of you who are working on that and those of you who are excited about it, I say thank you. My clients and I need guinea pigs. We need people who are willing to lose their money in order to prove systems. But for me and my clients, we're not going to be using smart contracts because they're simply not ready yet. And I'm going to briefly explain why. One, it can create legal problems for you and your heirs. Remember how I talked about, according to the law, only some people are entitled to get your assets? Well, if you don't make a will, and let's say your spouse is entitled to get 100% of your assets, but you actually leave your crypto in a smart will that takes half of it to your brother and half of it to your spouse, guess what happens? Lawsuit. And the lawyers get the money. Yeah. Well, don't do that. You don't have to do that. Why would you do that? You can do much better with just pen and paper, okay? Secondly, smart will platforms don't actually make things easier because the technology continues to change, right? You have to keep up with it. Your heirs have to understand how to use cryptographic keys. How many of you have all of your heirs know how to use keys? Exactly. None of you. Why? Because we're early times, you guys. We're early times. So don't lock up your funds and make sure that the prerequisite is your heirs being able to access keys when you know now they can't access keys. That doesn't make any sense, right? They know how to read. Pen and paper. It's your friend. Finally, smart contracts are not yet proven for long-term use. So smart contracts are awesome for atomic swaps, for something quick and easy. But with inheritance planning, hopefully, we're talking about years, right? Nobody's planning on leaving tonight. So you're talking about making plans that are 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Imagine what these technologies are 10 years from now. Can you even imagine? The networks are having upgrades as we speak every single year. There are significant upgrades to the network. We're not ready for this to do inheritance planning yet. It doesn't mean that I'm not excited about it coming. We're just not there yet. You can build a plan. You don't need to wait for technology. You don't need to wait for the law. You don't need to wait. Just do it. Humans die, crypto assets don't. So I'm going to ask you to do something for me. Grab your phone. You're like, why grab my phone? What? Then I'm going to stop paying attention to you. Grab your phone. Put a reminder in your calendar for next weekend to do your inheritance plan, to do something. 60 minutes is all it takes, you guys. 60 minutes can be the difference between your family actually being able to inherit your crypto assets and them not doing it. If you take it out, if you don't put a reminder in your calendar now, you're not going to remember. You want to know how I know? Because our next speaker is going to talk about amazing things, and you guys are going to be like, whoa, this was so cool. Inheritance, what? you will forget completely. So please, for your family's sake, put a reminder in your calendar. Do it. Don't forget. Thank you so much for your time and attention tonight. I appreciate it.